Bailey's Story, A Puppy Tale, Chapter 15. A year or so later in the spring, Smokey the cat got sick. He lay around moaning and didn't protest when I put my nose down in his face to find out what was wrong. I could smell sickness, but even more than that, I could smell exhaustion. He was worn out, his small body soft and limp. I licked him between the ears. Mom opened a can of delicious tuna, but Smokey just turned his face away from it, so I helped by finishing it up. Then Mom took Smokey for a car ride. When they came back, she was sad. Probably it was because cats are no fun in a car. A week or so later, Smokey died. After dinner, the family went into the backyard where Ethan had dug a big hole. I helped, of course. They wrapped Smokey's body in a blanket and covered it with dirt. Ethan and Mom cried a little. I nuzzled both of them to remind them not to be sad. I was still there, after all, and obviously I was a much better pet than Smokey. That summer, we did not go to the farm at all. Ethan and some friends from the neighborhood would get up every day and go to people's houses, where they'd cut grass with loud lawnmowers. I would go with the boy each day, that was good, but he'd always tie my leash to a tree while he worked, and that wasn't so fun. I simply couldn't figure out why the boy wanted to push a loud, smelly lawnmower over the ground instead of roaming through the woods or playing rescue me in the pond. When school started again, there were more changes. Mom would get home before Ethan did and come to let me in. The boy would arrive late, just before dinner, smelling of dirt, sweat, and grass. On some nights, we'd all pile into the car and go to a big yard where Ethan would play chase and fetch on a wide lawn with a lot of other boys. "Hey, Bailey, want to come to the football game?" Ethan would ask. One very odd thing about this game was that a lot of people would sit or stand around and they'd all yell and scream for no reason at all. It was confusing, but the tide of excitement that swept up from all those people made me wag frantically and tug at my leash. The first time I went to one of the games, I spotted Ethan jumping up to grab a ball in midair. Another boy grabbed him and they both rolled on the grass. As quick as I could, I leaped forward and my leash slipped out of Mom's hand. "Bailey!" she shouted. I dodged around a group of girls, jumped over a family sitting on the ground, and tore onto the big lawn to play with my boy. The ball had rolled out of Ethan's hands when he hit the ground. I grabbed it. It tasted a lot like the flip. Yuck. And was big for my mouth. But when I got my teeth into it pretty good, it sank down to a better size. "Ethan, or Bailey," Ethan yelled, rolling to his feet. "Bailey, no, bad dog." But he couldn't have meant that I was a bad dog because he was laughing. I danced away with the ball in my mouth, and when some of the other boys tried to get it back, we had a fantastic game of "this ball is mine" all up and down the big lawn. Finally, Ethan stopped laughing and called to me as if he really meant it. I raced up to him, panting, and dropped the ball at his feet, waiting for him to throw it again so that we could play some more. "Doodle dog, Bailey," he told me. Mom came running to the lawn to take my leash again, and then, for some reason, she pulled me back to the side before Ethan could throw the ball. "Bailey, you're a bad dog," she said, but I could tell that she didn't mean it either. She was trying hard not to laugh. She did keep a firm grip on my leash all the rest of the game, which wasn't fair. Why did the boys get to play and not me? Chelsea's puppy, Duchess, grew up and learned how to behave, and we became good friends. When it snowed, Ethan and I went sledding. When the snow melted, we went for walks and played fetch. A couple of times the boy pulled the flip out of the closet and stared at it. Each time, I tried to make myself very small and quiet so that he wouldn't think of making me fetch the thing. Then he'd put the flip away with a sigh, and I'd thump my tail on the floor, relieved. The next summer was another one where Ethan wanted to push lawnmowers rather than go to the farm. Such a shame. And when the weather turned cool again, there was more football. I never got to play again, though. Sometimes I'd whine a little with frustration when I could smell Ethan in the midst of those running, wrestling boys, but I wasn't allowed to run and wrestle with him. Mom would stroke my head, and I could feel that she understood. One wonderful new thing almost made up for the football. Ethan started to take his own car rides. Most times he would take me with him, and I'd get to be a front seat dog. I'd stand with my nose out the window, drinking in the fascinating rush of scents as he drove down the road. When summer came around again, Ethan took both me and Mom on a car ride to the farm. At last! Flair pretended not to recognize me, and I couldn't tell for sure if the ducks and the ducklings down by the pond were a different set or the same ones from last time. But nothing else had changed at all. I sniffed for the skunk in the woods, checked out what Grandma was cooking in the kitchen, and leaped into the pond, coming back to shake myself all over the family who were sitting on the front porch. Nearly every day Ethan would work with Grandpa and some other men, hammering and sawing boards. At first, I thought he must be building another go-kart, but after a while, I figured out that they were putting together a new barn right next to the old one, which had a big hole in the roof. Hammering and sawing were not very interesting, so every day I kept an eye out for anything else that might be going on. That meant I was the first one to spot the woman coming up the driveway. I ran down, ready to bark if I needed to. When I got close enough, I recognized her smell. It was the girl, Hannah. She was almost all grown up. "Hi there, Bailey," she rubbed behind my ears. She was still very good at that. "Did you miss me? Good boy." Ethan was coming out of the old barn with a board in his hands. He stopped. "Oh, hi, Hannah?" "Hi, Ethan." Grandpa and the other men were grinning at each other. Ethan looked over his shoulder at them and his cheeks turned hot. Then he set down his board and came over to where Hannah and I were standing. "So, hi," he said again. "Hi." They looked away from each other. Hannah stopped scratching. I gave her hand a little nudge with my nose to remind her that the job was not finished. "Come on in the house," Ethan said. For the rest of that summer, whenever I went for a car ride with Ethan, I noticed that the front seat of the car smelled like Hannah. In fact, sometimes Ethan smelled like Hannah. That was probably because they liked to sit very close together when they could. One time, I took a little nap on the rug while they were sitting right next to each other on the couch. Suddenly, the excitement and alarm pouring out of both of them jerked me awake. I jumped up, looking around to see what the matter was. Nothing seemed to be wrong. Ethan and Hannah didn't even look at me. Their faces were very close together, and their hearts were beating fast. Quickly, I jumped up onto the couch, working my face between theirs, swiping Ethan's chin with my tongue, getting a bit of Hannah's cheek wet as well. I knew I wasn't supposed to be on the couch, but since something exciting was obviously happening, I figured the rules could be bent a little. I'd need to be close at hand for whatever was going on. Ethan and Hannah both burst out laughing, and all the excitement faded. I guess nothing was going to happen after all. But they did let me stay on the couch with them while they watched a movie. Then the day came when Mom began to walk around the house and carry things out to the car. That time, nobody was laughing. There was a smell of new paint in the air from the barn. The girl came over and she and Ethan walked down to the pond and sat on the dock, dangling their feet over the water, and they talked and talked and talked. They didn't throw sticks or swim or do anything fun. I barked a bit at the ducks. I had a feeling it might be my last chance for a while, and came back to the pair of them to see if anything more interesting was going on. There wasn't. Hannah was crying a little, and Ethan was hugging her. I gave her hand a nudge, but she didn't seem to be in a mood to rub ears, so I lay down and sighed. No ear rubs? No sticks? No treats? No games of rescue me? There was more hugging at the car, and then we drove away, Ethan honking as we went.